Thank you guys for coming on.
Mm.
I appreciate it. This is a very important topic that we're trying, to make some headway with. So I wanted to bring it up as a topic, and then I'm gonna, I've got it recorded, but gonna make some notes as well. Oh, Mr. Nickel, thank you, Bob, for getting on. Good to see you, or good to
It
hear you.
looks like Mike has some samples, Jeff. Let's get going. He's
How do you
very
want to?
eager. He's been
I'm ready.
holding onto his sample for a while.
Right,
And, and
Oh my gosh, you got things
right,
you want to ask us. Well, what I
right.
wanted to talk about, but go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Go on.
Show us what you
Ryan
got.
sent me a gift last week, and it arrived in my office. So I just wanted to shout out to Ryan for my gift. Thank you.
ooh,
Oh, Ryan,
shiny.
nice.
Yeah, that was a fun little visit that we had with Mike out here. We played.
Mike, you should have said something. We could have driven
Mhm.
up together
Wow.
Next
Yeah,
next
time.
time.
Next
super
time.
cool. Yeah, nice. So,
Mm.
guys, we don't have a long time here. It's a 30-minute call. So, um, I'd love for everybody on this call, there's several of you that I'd love to get more feedback from, and we've had some discussions. But Sabine will be the first one to tell you. I think Mike knows, Ryan knows too, that there's always confusion, especially on the design side, about terminology, and probably more in the digital embellishment area than any area. There's confusion on what different terminology, different definitions mean. Um, and so we're trying to come up with something, and it's something we can continue to grow. But even a first, if you want to call it a glossary of terms, or a term definition with some of the main wordings and words and definitions that you hear out there already. So I started this with some very basic definitions, and then I just want to, I'm recording this, so I want to take notes on what we need to add, and that anybody here that has ideas on different definitions that they feel is very necessary for our group. I'm very open to what we need to add and how we need to add. You know, even from the basics, what's the definition of digital embellishments? And I've started that.
That's a hot topic. You're stepping right in there, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean that, what is that definition? Because here's a confusion right there. As you guys know, I mean, like what Ryan's involved in with his equipment is a digital inkjet based digital embellishments. But we know a company like Nobelus, who is involved, they'll call their process digital embellishments because they're putting down a digital printed black ink, and then the foil is laminated to that. Their process is digital as well. So, having an overall view of it and then being able to split out those definitions is what I think is important. But I think, we need to have a clear definition of digital embellishments. Digital rays, spot UV coatings, and I've got definite, I've looked at that. And then, of course, splitting out the two different digital foiling techniques. Digital foiling, and this is where and Sabina and I have had discussions on this. Digital
Oh,
foiling,
we're going rounds on this one. Yeah.
yeah, toner-based adhesive. I'm not a fan of sleeking. I think
No, and
I mean,
if you
what the heck does that mean? Sleeking means nothing. So splitting it up between talking about a toner-based adhesive, which is, what we talked about with Nobelis's process and others, and digital foiling. And then we have in the past used a polymer-based adhesive. But Ryan, I think you were on some discussions that, is that the best term to use? And it even comes down to that can come across as maybe not a sustainable definition when you're including polymer in
Yeah.
describe in what you're
There's
saying.
something barbecue here, games. I like small. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I
Joel.
don't think that was for us.
Joel,
Yeah.
we lost you.
Fire marshal team.
I think he's talking to somebody else.
Oh, is he talking to somebody else? Okay. Ryan? Hey, Ryan, yeah, but Ryan, what is, I know we had, you were one I know, so I
Yeah.
know you're about ready to talk on that. What your thoughts are when we're,
Yeah,
uh-oh. Hey,
Um,
Joel,
Jeff,
Joel,
you can
are you
mute
there?
him. Jeff, you can mute him.
I think he thinks he must be on. Here, hold on. Can I mute him? Oh, there we go.
Yes.
There you go.
hey.
Look at me.
You did it. Yeah, I think it raises a couple questions. One, yes, about the sustainability question, just knee-jerk reactions hearing that word, right? But I also think from the design community, and Sabine can probably talk a little more about this, like are designers going to knee-jerk know what polymer is versus
No.
toner? No, all they know
Well, they
is
know
it
toner. They know toner
sure.
for sure. So that's
So
why,
so
yeah, go ahead. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, I mean, is that just another term that we have to educate on, or is this something that should just be more uh, um should it be more of a blanket statement of digital foil and then it's a further discussion there. Like digital and foil would encompass the toner and it would also encompass the polymers, right?
But as
Because
you
there's no
know from
plates
our
involved.
workshops, Ryan, they're completely
Mm-hmm.
different. They're completely different in
Agreed.
what you can do with it. So that's
Agreed.
why I'm hesitant to throw them all in one bucket. Because I remember at
Mm-hmm.
our event last year, we had people come out of one session and say, "Oh yeah, I did digital foiling already." I'm like, "No, you got to go to the other
No,
one
they're
because
different. Yeah.
so I'm
Yes.
hesitant to throw this in because
Yeah,
there are
and
different.
yeah, and I mean, maybe it's something where it's like digital flat foil and digital raised foil because they are they are a little different in that manner, I feel, and it may be a little more digestible to
Digestible. I like
designers.
it. Okay.
Is, if we did, when we, one of them, I think we all agree that like the toner-based adhesive is a good definition of the.
Don't say adhesive. You're back into the non-environmental one. Ryan will tell you.
So maybe we just say
Mm.
toner. You think toner, just saying digital foiling toner-based?
Toner-based digital foiling. Boom. It is what it is.
I'm all
But I
right with
mean,
that.
Jeff does have a good point where some of them do have adhesives in them.
They,
Yeah.
well, they may, yeah.
But
But I'm just want,
from a
if we're
design, sorry,
calling,
Let Mike's chiming in.
can I
Here
make a
comes the voice
suggestion
of
there?
reason.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's fine.
when you talk about the difference between your toner-based foiling and something which is adhered by a polymer with a very, very, very thin layer, very,
It's
very,
still
very thin
raised.
layer,
It's still
to,
raised.
to a designer, you've basically got a flat foil.
No,
And
I'm sorry. No.
well, Sabine is going to pick the nits out of me.
Yes.
All right. But the for a designer's perspective, there's the right down to the finished piece, what am I going to get discussion. And then there's the intent of what do they really want, right? And whether you're putting the thinnest layer of foil down, or you've got some process which means you have to do something else, or if you're applying a hot foiling process to do something, the idea of you don't want any height to your thing, you just want to put foil down, that's a question for a designer. Right now, you can talk about the pros and cons of the different processes for achieving that, and the fact, to Sabine's point, well, it might not be particularly flat if it's polymer. That's fine. That's a deeper level of conversation. But if you can't get over that intent question with your designer about, do you want a raised peaks on a tactile raised peaks on, are you going for tactility? Not a word, but it is now. Or are you going for a reflective surface? That I think is the first thing you want to get across from your client, right? And then build on that.
So, but then you're back to I mean, we're all agreeing that the overall is digital foiling, right? That's the overarching. But then you're back to raised and flat
Possibly.
to keep it super simple.
But, if we would say
Not
there's
that flat
toner,
sounds very exciting, but
if we say there's toner-based digital foiling, would it be appropriate to say inkjet-based digital foiling? We have toner-based digital foiling or
That's why I would
toner
stay
makes it
well
easy.
clear of the actual implementation on a device from a
Right.
designer intent perspective. Talk to the designers in terms of what they need to know. They don't need to know what the machine's doing in the back end because they're never going to see it.
Yeah.
Well, they
So
don't want
why
to know.
force
Yeah.
them to understand the manufacturing process when they're sitting there on a screen?
Yeah.
There's nothing there that's relevant for them.
Which
That would be my two
machine
cents.
uses it for inkjet these days? What am I missing? Isn't toner based? Aren't all the flat ones toner based at the moment? What am I missing?
No, all the, the Skodix, Ryan, the Harrison Brunos, those are all
But that's
inkjet
polymer.
that
That's
he's,
the raised one.
well, yeah, but that is the raise, but it's put down by a digital inkjet process, right? Ryan, I'm saying
Okay,
that.
now
All
we're
right,
going.
Matt, what do you got? I
Yeah.
thought,
Well, okay, just because it's digital polymer,
Oh, here comes. Yep.
just because it's digital polymer inkjet varnish with foil on top of it doesn't mean that it's raised.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can put
Kurtz have a
put
bunch of
very
technologies as
flat
well in
and
that
easy.
space,
Yeah.
right?
Brian, on that, I feel like it always is a little raised though, right? Like you can't go
Yes.
below like 15 microns. Maybe
Roughly,
10.
yeah. But at that point, it doesn't really look raised. It just looks like the
Right.
thickness of the foil itself. It just doesn't have, when you do a traditional hot stamp, technically it debosses a little bit because you're stamping it down into the
Depending on the
paper.
pressure you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's the thickness of the foil minus the deboss.
Right. And the toner is maybe like 1 micron, which is not like either of the other two you're just talking about. It's like flat, but maybe a tad bit up. But then we try to sell a flat as possible and then a raise as possible, like maybe 40 or 50. But yeah, we usually can't go below like 10, maybe 15. I don't know if that's normal, but
It
Ryan,
depends on your machine.
Ryan, yeah, Ryan, what's your lowest micron that you can shoot polymer on?
yeah, I think we go down to what, 12, 14?
Yeah,
To
we
put
do.
foil on top.
Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
probably
But I also think it's also media dependent too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a couple things we know that designers want to know about, is like what Mike was saying, right? I mean, it's how much information do you want to give them? So that's number one. But and I know we can go down to a 10, but it can't be real fine 10 because you're going to start skipping a little bit on a Scodex. But also, once they start doing that, cost is going to be involved at some point too. So do designers care about cost?
Heck yeah.
Yes, I can speak to the designer side of this. Yeah, from my perspective, I want to know if it's truly raised or flat. Like to me, going from hot stamping and slightly debossed to 10 or 12 microns, which I don't even physically know what that is, but you're saying that's flat. Sabine's saying it's raised. To me, just having the option to do cold foiling or digital foiling, whatever we're going to call it, for 100 pieces is a win. I don't care if it's slightly raised. Now that I can do it and not pay an exorbitant amount for the stamp at the end of the die,
right?
How much it's raised doesn't matter. Like if I truly want it to be raised, I'll indicate that or probably call the printer and see if it's possible. So,
And this is where maybe that the initial idea of calling it one thing and then getting into that deeper discussion of how it's done could be beneficial, so it's not throwing anybody off or discouraging, because toner and polymer, it is a completely different
Process.
end look and feel. It's a different
Yes.
process, yeah.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, is it shiny foil on the page? Yes.
Yeah.
So is that, and now, and I'm just throwing ideas out on the board here and asking questions. Is this something where we call it digital foil and it is still digital, and now it's more of a discussion when the designer does call and say, well, this is the thought, this is what we want to do. Well, we have digital foil, but this is our process to do it, and this is what it can achieve.
Right.
Does
but
it look
what do you
like
call-
that?
We're back to, yeah, but we're back to what do you call the process?
Yeah. I mean, and
Because
maybe we have
they're
they're both digital foil, but one's a digital foil polymer and one's a digital foil toner.
Are
which
the
does,
results significantly different?
yes.
Yes.
Adrian, you got to come to our life event. We have 2 workshops about this.
Yeah.
I kid you not. We have an hour. Alex is going to do a workshop, and Ryan said in last year. And because they are so different, that's the conundrum. I
But
would
where
say.
you've
100%.
got to is, let's say with Pantone, for example, think about this in the regular color world, right? There used to be the idea of saying, right, I want Pantone 871C, right? And I can take that and I can print that on an offset press, a flexo press, a digital press. And if my press is calibrated, I know what I'm getting with a Pantone 871C, right?
Right.
The same ought to be true as far as the designer is concerned. If I'm saying I want you to use Kurtz 220,
Right.
well, the Kurtz 220 foil, I might have put that through any number of different processes, but I wanted that color. I wanted Kurtz 220. I want it to be applied.
Okay. And the best way to do that, in my humble opinion, would be toner-based digital foiling, because you can mimic the. There we go.
You're coming back to the implementation about what the final finish will look like, but the color will that I'm looking at for my design, the
Right.
reflectivity will be coming from that Kurtz 220 rather than the process.
But the
Matt,
process,
when you
yeah.
Matt, when you describe those 2 different ways of doing digital foil, how would you educate somebody or talk to a customer about it?
Okay, well, you know, I work at Elite Print Finishing, and we do all kinds of foiling here. We have these giant, you know, machines in back that do large 20 by 30 by 40 sheets, and it's all hot foil stamping. You know, it's a slight deboss because it's a just traditional hot foil, flat foiling. You know, it's what you see on all of the packaging in the store. You know, toothpaste boxes, Advil, uh, just any product you see in the store, basically, because it's high volume. It's just flat foil. We refer to it as flat foil. If somebody wants raised or tactile foil, then obviously we're talking about the MGI room, which is this room over here with the 3DL in it. So it's either tactile raised or flat.
Hmm.
How it gets on the page is irrelevant. We don't say, are we going to put it on the 230? We're going to put it on, you know, that the Chinese machine on the end. You know, if it's raised, obviously it's obvious that we're going to use the MGI 3DL to apply that.
And
Although
maybe
you
that's the
can
best way.
emboss,
Maybe that's the best way to do it.
yeah.
Flat and raised.
Yeah, in-house and talking to our customers, flat and, you know, flat
Yeah.
or tactile raised. And if it is raised, how high do you want to go?
Thank you. I think that's the easiest way, probably,
Mm-hmm.
because that's basically where we're going, and that ties in with what Mike said originally. It's the intent, because one option doesn't want. If I go the toner-based route, it doesn't give me the option to raise the heck out of it. It's flat, or wait, flat. While the raised one is like, okay, it's a teeny tiny bit raised, or you can go as high as you want. So maybe raised and flat is keep it simple, people.
Yeah.
Bob, how do you educate customers? Because you guys do all the processes. You do cold foil, hot foil, digital. Um, how do you describe it, or how do you, define it to customers?
We go along the same route. We talk, years ago, everybody talked GL, gloss level. Well, we put numbers to gloss level now. Okay. So if customer wants, a satin, we tell them what number that is. Gloss, we tell them what number it is. So now with, raised polymer, we also talk microns. Okay. We tell them our low end is about 10 to 12 and our high end is 50. So, that eludes into, like, do you have samples? Yes, we have samples. Okay. And that our next question is, what product are you doing it to? Give me some type of a PDF structure, and then we can cost it for you. And then when they start seeing what a 50 micron costs, they usually move to about a 25. So digital is digital. I fully agree. We can talk, heights like you were talking about, but I just like numbers. So I put numbers to everything and try to educate the customer to the numbers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's my philosophy.
Well, as Mike says, in Europe, he sees 2D and 3D, which is basically flat and raised.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not a fan of 2D and 3D because 3D in the US often means 3D printing, and that's a completely different kettle of
Yeah.
fish.
That can be,
Mhm.
yeah,
I
think
agree.
designers would find that confusing. You start.
Yeah.
Yes.
start
Let's face
Yeah.
it, no offense, Mike, but they drive on the other side of the road too. So
Yeah.
No,
Not
no, no,
yet.
that's
No.
only the UK.
Yeah, that's only us
Let's
Brits. That's
face
where
it.
but let's not get started. But you're right. I mean, some of the Europeans like their numbers, right? So I tend to agree. Raised
yeah,
and flat
yeah.
is better. But in North America, we tend to be more descriptive. They tend to be more proscriptive in Europe.
Okay. Well,
I
Well,
think
we
that
have a
the
metric
flat and
system, I
raised
tell
makes a
you.
lot of sense.
Flat and
yeah, I
raised.
think we need to explore that more. I'd love to get with this group here, get a lot of good people. One other, just a change. I think that's some good conversation on the digital foiling. This is another conversation. Sabine and I've had it. I think Ryan, Matt, possibly too. Is where do we draw the line on what a digital embellishment is? So, in
Mhm.
other words, we certainly understand that a raised foil or a raised spot coating is all embellishment. That's all digital embellishment. But we also see, some of the digital print companies talking about their fifth and sixth color that have, they're calling some of the things they're doing with it as a embellishment.
Yeah, but
And
some people also call their toner dry ink, so let's not go there.
which is, yeah, that's true, right? And
Yeah.
I know that's, again, it's where like Adrian's going, oh my gosh, how do I understand all of this? And it's so difficult. But so I'm interested in anybody's comment on that because I look at it just real quick is that, so if you're using a clear ink on your fifth or sixth color on your Fuji machine, and you're using a clear ink to spot coat basically in one of those fifth or sixth colors, I think you're embellishing.
Yes,
If
you are.
Yes.
if you're CMY printing over the top of something, um, you're over a metallic material. I think that's still an embellishing process in some ways. But I think if you're doing a neon pink ink in your fifth color, you've done CMYK, now you're adding a fifth color bright neon pink. I don't. My opinion is that's not an embellishment.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm just throwing that out, and I'd like to, Ryan, what's your thought on
I don't know. I think the it's hard to like simplify this, but if I'm going to try, I would say anything that is beyond color ink. So like the metallics, right? It's a metallic ink. It's beyond just a color.
Yep.
And you use that neon pink as a standard, right? As printers, I think a lot of people understand the difference of that fifth color station, right? You have an extra color station, but it's still just color.
Color. Yeah.
Yeah, but when it's coming to that clear ink, well, that's not color. It's the clear polymer. When we're talking about metallics, when you have metallics added in, it's something beyond just ink. So to me, that's what I would say would contribute to an embellishment.
that's kind of my thought as well. I would agree with that. Anybody else?
Beyond
I-
ink.
Thought on
I tend to think digital embellishment is a better version of what traditional processes used to be for something that had to be done offline. So the hot stamping, the UV special machine to do the UV coating. So anything that can be done in line while the CMYK is being printed as well. I know at the NGI, it's a separate process, right?
Yep.
Okay. I see digital as the word being used to imply that it can be done more efficiently or quicker, less expensive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you make perfect.
Faster.
I think
Not faster.
you gotta
not
step-
faster in most
Okay.
I think if we step back a second and take the word digital out of this, we got to be clear about what embellishments are in the first place. And I think Ryan brought it back to a super simple point. Anything beyond colored ink, boom, or toner for that matter. It doesn't really matter if it's toner or ink.
Right.
And Mike in the comments said, yeah, fifth, sixth extended color gamut is not really an embellishment. It enhances the color, but it doesn't really do anything
Exactly.
beyond that. So I think, as Adrienne, said, embellishment, if we're saying embellishment is anything beyond colored ink or toner, then digital is just an easier way to get to the embellishment for shorter print runs. The embellishment has to be the same. Does it?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
That makes sense. I mean, but like they used to have, spot gloss and spot dual varnish as fifth and sixth stations for an offset press, right? Which kind of is like a spot UV offline now.
Right.
But what about like we print on a lot of like silver substrates, the white ink to cover up where we don't want the metallic showing, and then people often use that, transparent yellow to look like gold on the silver paper.
Right.
I'm not sure what to call that either, but
I would say it's
How would you
embellishment,
say, how
but
would you define that when, using a metallic substrate? Because you're right, I don't know that that's really an embellishment, is it? It's a, if you're printing over the top of a metallic substrate, is that embellishment? Anybody?
well, if we borrow a leaf out of Mike's book and go for the intent, and Mike, I'm going to borrow
Yeah.
this heavily. If we're going for the intent, then it's embellished because you have foil now on the sheet as opposed to a regular sheet.
Yeah, I think the way I would take it would be to strip it back to what's your intention, all right? But again, there's a number of different processes to give you this effect. You can print on a non-metallic substrate and put some gold toner in there and mix it with your CMYK and get this mixed effect, which is a mix of metallic and CMY to give you a range of colors. You can achieve the same thing by having by printing on a metallic substrate. In other words, the process is pre-put that down on the substrate and now you're putting CMY on top. But did you put that metallic on the substrate, 2 weeks ago in a factory, or did you do it in real time by putting some toner down on the press as you print it? Again, that's more about implementation, not about the intent of the customer. Yes, now we all know that you'll get a different result from this technique or that technique. But again, back to intent. Is it more in some cases, it will be more cost effective to print on a metallic substrate because you want a large coverage, right? But if you only want a small coverage, it's really, really expensive just for the sake of taking teensy tiny logo to print on a metallic substrate and then put white everywhere else.
So
You
we're
wouldn't ever
back
do that.
using
But back to the intent.
Yeah, using your intent scenario, the intent is to have an embellished piece.
Right.
And then there's, as we know, many ways to get to Rome. So you can do that on depending on what you're going for, you can use an MGI or a Scodix or a ZRX or, use a foiled substrate. So I think if we're going with that, it's the intent. I like that. I think we're going to borrow that heavily, Mike.
It's a good one.
You're welcome. I'm available for weddings and bar mitzvahs as well.
I can see him standing there. So what
children's
is your
parties,
intent here with
children's
this
parties
wedding?
are not since that incident with the metallic toner, but okay. Apart from that,
Any other? We're getting close to the time here, guys. Any other last comments, possibly on embellishments and terms? I've got some good notes. I'm gonna really try to continue to collect some of this and share it, especially with this group, and get some feedback. I'll try to do that here in the next couple of weeks. But anything else, Matt? Anything you think of?
Well, while I was thinking, while you're all talking about this, that I think about it all in very simple terms. I don't try to, define anything heavily or put it in a specific pigeonhole. But anytime that, like Muriel Bremer of Konica Minolta and I talk about the term embellishment. It's just simply print decoration. And that's done after the fact of whatever you've printed. You're decorating the print. So, okay, you printed on foil board. Well, that was the print. Now you're going to embellish the foil board. So the foil board itself is not an embellishment. It's what you do to what you print on that foil board after the fact. So if I lay more varnish and foil on top of something that was printed on foil board with white to block out certain areas, and then CMYK on top of that, then I'm going to put some foil and varnish in various areas. And we do that here. We do quite a bit of it actually for trading cards and whatnot. To me, the embellishment is what's done after the printing is done. It's a finishing effect. And essentially it's just print decoration if you just want to define it hardcore. So that's my take on that.
Matt, would you also, because you're saying, I like that print decoration, would those metallic inks be a decoration?
They could be used as a decoration. Like if it was the last finish on the sheet. So let's say you're running an iridescent and you put gold in station number, 6. So, and you're putting that gold on top of everything else that's already there. And say it's a pattern, as if I were to do gold foil on the MGI, I'm just going to do the flake gold on the iridescent. Then I consider that an embellishment. Even though it's probably all done in one pass, it's still laying on top of what was printed there. It's not.
But by your definition, Matt, it would not be an embellishment.
I know.
In station 1.
I know. Well, yeah, because then it's an underlayer, and then of course that would be back down in the same category as foil board.
We're really talking. We're real close here, guys, but we're really talking. I mean, most of the conversation here is about creating a metallic finish. And what's the best way to do a metallic finish? One of them is to use a foil board or, foil paper. One of them is to actually use a metallic ink. That's a metallic finish. And then we have the digital foil processes, standard. Adrian brought up, hot foil stamping is another. And then we have cold foil. We're really talking about creating a metallic finish, and what's the best way to do it?
But Jeff, I'm going to pull you up. You've used the word finish. That's a verb, all right? And a finish to me implies something that happens at the end.
Right. Yes.
What you're talking about is a metallic effect.
Effect. There you go. I like it.
Right? Because effect can happen at any time. Finish